IRS agents to review OnlyFans content for, quote, tax on tips eligibility. I thought they had less agents. Apparently, they have enough for this assignment, though. Here's the deal. IRS agents may now have to review OnlyFans content in order to fulfill their job duties. Suddenly, there's a line out the door of people applying. The issue, according to a report by Andrew Duehren at the New York Times, is the interpretation of a restriction on the no tax on tips deduction passed as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that says tips earned for prostitution or pornographic activity are not eligible. I don't even know why you're carving it out. Why are you doing that? Legislation didn't offer much additional guidance. IRS has yet to issue any statements clarifying what exactly constitutes pornographic activity, leaving the taxing agency in a similar boat as Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart when he endeavored to define obscenity in the 1964 case of Jacob Ellis versus Ohio. I know it when I see it. I bet he did. Apparently, the IRS expects its agents to know it when they see it, as far as determining eligibility for this deduction. There are almost 5 million creator accounts on OnlyFans, reported at the time, but it's not clear how many of them are Americans subject to U.S. tax laws. Not all of them are posting pornographic or sexual content. It's also unclear, wrote Duehren, whether strippers could claim the tips deduction because there is plenty of activity that an accountant or tax lawyer could argue is merely titillating. It's just a funny word, isn't it? When you say it, it's immature, but it makes me titillating. Oh. Anyway, there's more. Enforcement of this pornographic activity exclusion, Duehren added, will require IRS agents and tax court judges to view the content. They're going to have free content. Is that fair? Is that fair? Whether or not the IRS tries to come up with its own definition of pornographic activity enforcing the exclusion, most likely would still involve auditing taxpayers who report tips from sources like OnlyFans. IRS agent would have to view a taxpayer's content, decide if it was pornographic, then deny the deduction for tips, which is capped at $25,000. Ultimately, it would be the subjective determination of an IRS examiner or tax court judge. How is this fair? Tax preparer, educator, said Thomas Gorzinski. Sometimes you look at something, it's clearly pornography, but sometimes you look at something, you think, subjective. Somebody might be really into it. So this is wild. Okay, they're going to be reviewing a lot of stuff, Tehron. And I happen to know, listen, I've never been on OnlyFans, you can believe me or not. But I know there's people I've heard who have this foot fetish and they get these beautiful pedicures. And that's all their content is. And I thought, maybe it's not like I'm not saying I did it, but I heard people make a lot of money because that's a fetish. Is that the money received there a tip? Is that pornographic? Isn't the law, okay, because you're really smart and you know this stuff, you pointed out some things that kind of got on my nerves today, but you were right. So if someone's doing this in Iowa and somebody else is doing it in Kansas, you got two different judges, two different IRS examiners. Everybody's, it's up to me individually to decide what. How is that fair? Isn't it supposed to be some kind of blanket thing, this law thing?
So it's interesting you brought that up because, first of all, I'm sorry if I wasn't paying full-time attention. I was applying to the IRS website to become an auditor. I feel like we should all be doing our civic duty. 100%. We should all do what we need to do for the betterment of the country, of course. However, in this specific case, there are several different things. Let me just bring up and express and explain what's happening. The IRS is basically saying that they should have access to the OnlyFans content, obviously for free, so that they can tell if OnlyFans content creators are creating pornographic material and or entitled to these tips. Now, before we all think that this is outrageous, which it kind of is, but it's not. And the reason is the same way the IRS has access to any business in America in order to see if you are doing the things you are saying you do and are eligible for the tax deductions that you are asking for. That is how audits work. And this OnlyFans is a business. However, as far as the lawful part of does the IRS agent get to determine if something's pornographic or not, the Supreme Court actually has answered this question for us. We don't have like a specific test. What we do have is a case, Miller versus California, in which in 1973, we enacted the Miller test, which is basically a three-part system to determine if something's pornographic. Does it appeal to the prurient interest? Does it patently have offensive sexual conduct? Does it lack serious value? These are things that are our idea of pornography. And of course, will apply to a lot of the OnlyFans content, even if it's just pictures of feet. It's how the feet are presented. And the court has also said, you might not know what pornography is, but you'll know it when you see it. So the problem with the law oftentimes is that one size fits all. An example that we learned specifically is about the tomato. Tomato is scientifically a fruit, but because of the tariffs on fruits and vegetables in the law, tomatoes are vegetables as determined by law so that we can tax them differently. That is the question that's going to be brought up here. And I do believe this is something that will hit the Supreme Court, if not in the next 5-10 years, but by the next 20.
I feel so mature. It's just I couldn't help it.
It's
To just
titillating.
giggle through most
It's
of it.
titillating.
I was thinking about Clarence Thomas when this one gets up there. Remember what Anita Hill said? I believe her. To this day, I can't get a Coca-Cola and without thinking about that. Okay. Now I'm sorry. Google it if you can. But I was just thinking about if you are correct, and you usually are, and this gets all the way up there, Jesus. He's usually not, he's a very C student. He's not usually engaged, but he'll be all in on this one. I bet he'll do all the questioning if that one gets to the Supreme Court. It's just fascinating. And so you believe that even a beautiful pedicure, it's just a pedicure, and it's got a camera set up and lighting and stuff. And I just put it there and upload it, and people start giving money. That could be viewed as pornography.
The presentation of it could be. Now, I'm not saying for me personally, however, you have to think of everyone as a whole. Let's say that there's just a beautiful foot and it's presented in a very, what we can think of a sensual way. Would you want your child to look at that, even though it's just a foot? These are the kind of things that we understand in pornography as a civil society. We have done this, and thanks to Penthouse and all these magazines and Playboy that actually fought for our First Amendment rights in order to be able to have these rights to begin with. But there is a questionability about certain things. And the IRS is simply saying, you have to pay your part.
You did that. I'm thinking if you're just walking through beautiful manicured lawn, that's one thing. If it's dipped in honey, and you kind of just gently pull the foot out of the honey, I don't know. This is
You've
getting
thought
crazy.
about this, Sharon.
I can't help it.
What
There's
you're
something
saying
going on in
is
here.
titillating. What you're saying is titillating.